Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lifeline. My name is Sage Breed. Man, I'm excited for today's topic. This one is something that I believe is useful for everybody. This is a skill that the Lord has helped me develop. And again, I'm not perfect in it, I'm learning. And perhaps some of the things that I'm going to share with you are going to encourage you that you are doing the thing that you need to be doing. Perhaps it's going to sharpen your perspective of, oh, there's something I can tighten up about. And maybe it's even going to be like, oh, I didn't even consider that. And that topic is making decisions. And so when you hear making decisions, perhaps you're thinking of, well, I already know how to make a decision. I make decisions every day. Right? Maybe you're even thinking of, well, I don't see how that's useful. Everybody needs help making decisions. So much so, this is why people hire coaches. This is why it's crucial to have mentors. This is why we ask people for advice all the time. Like, hey man, I just want to bounce this idea off of you, or I'm thinking about this, or we share something with our friends, or we just tell some random stranger at the grocery store while we're picking up eggs, right? Because at the end of the day, we all want affirmation that the decision that we're making is the right one. And so what this comes down to is mental processing. And everything here is built on the foundation of wisdom. And so we talked about before that wisdom is simply just applied knowledge. You already have knowledge because you're smart. You're capable. You're able to accomplish difficult things. You do hard things. Now, we're going to sharpen that skill because decision making is a skill. And so, I thought I had the book on my nightstand. I think it's in my backpack. That's okay. Decision making is a tactical skill. It requires tact. It requires grace, and it requires you to not second guess yourself, right? Hesitation is often the downfall of a lot of people. So if you're going to do something, do it with full confidence. If you're going to fail 100% of the way, right? Because the issue when it comes with decision making is hesitation. And I often say this, hesitation will get you killed. And this comes from my background of skateboarding. I love skateboarding. Growing up, I remember when over the summers, we'd go over to the babysitters, right? And it'd be my 3 other friends. It'd be me, Asher, JP, and Nick. And our babysitter's boyfriend at the time was into skateboarding. And he gave all of us skateboards. It was a good time. And I stuck with it. I skate to this day. Right? You never know, dude, whoa. I didn't even think about this. You never know what you're doing and how it's going to impact someone. Wow. And so with that, I was so scared learning new tricks because I never wanted to get hurt. I didn't want to get hurt so bad to the point I didn't try anything new. Because I didn't want to, I remember my girlfriend in high school, one day she asked me, because I was a skater boy. I dressed like a skater. I talked like a skater. In computer class, I would be on Thrasher magazine watching all the skate clips and all this. Anyway, that was my thing, bro. I loved it so much. I still do, just in a different way. She goes, Sage, did you ever fall while skating? And I looked at her and I said, no, I don't fall. Because people who fall, they suck. I don't suck at skating because I don't fall. How arrogant. How cocky, dude. If you never fail at something, if you never fall, it's because you're not trying. And that is embarrassing. Not trying is actually more embarrassing than trying and not succeeding at it. I'm more ashamed to tell someone that I'm not trying than to look silly doing what I'm actually trying to do. And so we would go to the skate park And I remember when I was first learning how to drop in. Dropping in is like a milestone. If you're not familiar with what dropping in and what that is, essentially you would go to a ramp, right? It looks like this. Sometimes it's just half, and that's what's called a quarter pipe. Sometimes it's a full half pipe. A pipe is just a circle, right? Dropping in is like, here's the ledge, and you just drop in, right? And you roll. You just simply, like, this is my back foot, this is my front foot. I'm on my skateboard, and I just weep like that. Dropping in takes full commitment. You have to fully slam your front foot down. Because if you don't, and you hesitate, you're going to go back. And remember, it's a slant. It's a steep slant. So if you're on your back, you're going to fall on your back. And I've done it a lot, even as I become more skilled in skateboarding. And so it's a full commitment. Trying new tricks, right? Going on handrails, doing tricks over the stair sets, doing tricks over gaps. Full commitment. And so a principle that I apply to my life is what you do in one area, you do across the board more often than not. So if you don't commit in a small area, you're not going to commit in your relationships. You're not going to commit to yourself. You're not going to commit to the promises that you make. Right? My dad told me growing up, there's only two things in life that you can control. That is your character and your word. If you have a bad word, you can't get that back. If you have bad character, people can't trust your word. And if people can't trust what you say, then what you say is meaningless. And people aren't going to listen to you. I have what I endearingly call the gift of gab. I can talk a lot. I'm a talker. I can take a subject and I can expound on it in a lot of different ways. I can extrapolate tiny little things and go on tangents with them. I remember when I was in high school, I used to give speeches all the time. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from. But I'd be in the locker room just giving random speeches. People would ask me to give a speech about a topic, and I give a short sermonette. That's redundant. I give a sermonette, right? And I go on these little topics. Well, one day, there was the startup of the ping pong club. And my friends and I, we were talking. We're like, oh, let's just go check that out. Well, I gave a speech. Right? I just walked in there, and they were voting on who the president of the ping pong club was going to be. And so everybody had to give like a short speech. Everybody that wanted to run, not just people that were in the room, but those that wanted to run had to give a short speech. And so I remember I walked into the middle of the room, and I talked about how ping pong is actually a direct reflection and correlation of society. And when I tell you, I finished talking, I got a standing ovation, and people are coming up being like, Sage, your speech changed my life. I don't know what the heck I was talking about. I have no idea. And so anyway, people voted for me to be the president. I wasn't. I became the vice president of the ping pong club. And I never showed up to a single gathering. Anyway, but I say that to say, to commit to something, you have to do it with full focus, full energy, and full attention. Because what you do in one area of your life, you're likely going to do it in every other area as well. Right? Maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, Sage, I don't have an issue committing to things. That may be true. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, there's some areas where I can tighten up in. That may be true. Maybe you're not thinking anything. Maybe you're just like, let's see where this goes. So, I'm going to invite you to sit down. Maybe you're standing. Maybe you're working out. Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're doing... Sit down, like, theoretically. And join along in this discussion because I'm not talking at you, although it is seemingly a one-way conversation. I'm inviting you to create an inner dialogue, right? So the things I say, perhaps they're kind of like, whoa. Investigate that. Hash that out within yourself. Even reach out to my Instagram. Reach out if you have my number. Text me. I'm not going to give my number out on here. Email me, Skype me. Got me feeling like Charlie Wilson. Email me my mama's number, my manager's number. Man, when I was in high school, my friend Andrew and we loved that song. My name is Charlie Wilson. I don't know who put us on that song. Anyway, and so with that, when it comes to making a decision, there's a lot of things to keep in mind. How's this going to affect me? How's this going to affect my life going forward? How's this going to affect the people that are around me? How is this going to impact the dynamic of those that are looking to me to make this decision? Right? Because a decision-making opportunity is more than just that opportunity. What it really is the ability and the opportunity, right, to change and impact the future. Now, when I say impact, I want you to envision a still pond of water, right? Or better yet, let's do something that maybe you've never gone to a pond. But most often and more often than not, you have this ability, a cup of water. It's still, unless you're moving it. But just imagine sitting on the counter. It's full. And you just plop something into the cup. You see ripples. That is what a decision is. It's an impact that ripples through time. Now, when you hear that, perhaps you're like, now that is a bit dramatic. Dramatic or not, it's true. So when it comes to decision making, some decisions aren't that crucial. Some are. Maybe you're just deciding, what am I going to wear today? Even with this outfit. Right? I looked in my closet and thank God I have the opportunity to sift through clothes. And I said, well, what am I going to wear? I'll wear that. Maybe you're deciding, am I going to eat breakfast today? Okay, well, if I do, what am I going to eat? Am I just going to have coffee, or am I actually going to have a meal? Maybe you're deciding what shoes you want to put together. Maybe you're deciding how are you going to allot your money for the day. Maybe you're deciding I only have $50 and I have 2 bills to pay. Which one is more important? Maybe you're deciding I need to have a difficult conversation, but I'm not sure of how to phrase it. Maybe you're deciding I need to break up with this person, or I want to ask this person out. Maybe you're deciding I'm going to move somewhere. Either way, studies say that we make over 20,000 decisions a day. Some of them are micro decisions, things that we don't even think of. Right? Maybe you took one more extra step. Right? Like you were walking and you took a step and you're like, oh, bumped into something. That's a decision. Right? Maybe you decided to make your bed or not make your bed. That's a decision. Maybe you decided to brush your teeth or not brush your teeth. Hopefully you chose to brush your teeth. Take care of yourself. So how do we form these decisions? When we look at the decision, we have to ask ourselves, what is my desired outcome? Because if we don't know what we desire to come out of the decision that we want, we're going to have a difficult time making the decision. So what we're talking about right now is how do I assess this decision? The Bible says every decision comes out of wisdom. Now, whether you believe in God or not, the God I'm speaking of is Jesus Christ. Maybe you believe in Allah, right? Maybe you are of the Hindu faith. Maybe you are of Muslim faith. Maybe you are of the atheistic faith, because that's still a faith. Maybe you're agnostic. Maybe you believe in the universe. Maybe you are involved in New Age. Regardless of where you stand, regardless of what lifestyle you choose, all decisions are based on the fear of God, the understanding of God. I'm a Christian, so my decisions come out of the substratum of everything I do is based on biblical foundation and truth. It says in Proverbs, in all you're getting, get an understanding. It also says the first step in getting wisdom is to get wisdom. I think that's so funny. Then it also goes to say that the first step in wisdom is fearing the Lord. And this is talking about Yahweh, Jesus. So with that, when it comes to fearing God, we don't want to disobey, right? And sometimes it's easy to jump into these legalistic conversations of, well, your God just wants me to obey all these rules, and your God, he just keeps me from doing what I want to do, and Jesus doesn't really care about what I like because I don't get to do anything because everything I want to do is a sin. I get that. I've said those exact sentences. I believe those same things. And now I'm coming to understand that it's not really about these rules. And I'll share this with you. I was reading in the book of Leviticus, which most people know as the rule book. Think about the context of which it was written and to who it was written to. The book of Leviticus was written to a group of people living in a desert. And they were talking about clean and unclean, pure and impure, and defiled and non-defiled. They didn't have medicine back then. There wasn't a lot of clean water. It was a large group of people interacting with animals. So when it talks about being clean and unclean, well, these rules were actually there because if they did something that qualified them as unclean, they would literally get sick. Like literally. They didn't have soap. They didn't have hand sanitizer. A lot of us, like everyone at the time of this recording, we just came out of a pandemic and still quote unquote in it. Bruh, there was no kind of hand sanitizer, and the hand sanitizer that we had was terrible. People were using vodka and Tito's to clean their hands because you don't want to be dirty. And so when it comes out of the fear of God, it comes from the understanding of protection. We don't know what's best, although we may think we do. Sometimes I think, okay, I didn't intend on sharing this story. So every year, my dad, he gets our family a key tag from Wendy's for a free Frosty, a junior size Frosty. And before you'd have to buy something, and I stopped going because I was like, I want something free. I don't want to have to buy something to get something free. And so they since did away with buying something. Now you can just get a free Frosty. And so it started off, I'd go, once every couple days. And then it was like, okay, I'll increase the frequency. And then I started going every day. And then I started going multiple times a day. To the point where the people at Wendy's knew me. And they already knew the frequency and how I would order my Frosties. So this started in fall because of pumpkin spice. So say what you will. I used to say the same thing. Pumpkin spice is for basic people. I'm a basic person. I've come to the conclusion that I really like pumpkin spice. Say what you will. Say what you will. And I would get the pumpkin spice Frosty every day. Every day. And at first it was a treat. And then it became, oh man, I'm feeling stressed out. Let me get a pumpkin spice Frosty. And so one day I went and it was pumpkin spice. It was a Tuesday night, pumpkin spice. Next night, I'm driving in from Waxahachie, and coming off of the highway, there's a Wendy's. And I pulled in and I asked for my pumpkin spice, and they go, "Oh, I'm sorry, bro. We don't have pumpkin spice anymore. Now it's peppermint." I'm like, "Peppermint? I like peppermint ice cream." But I was like, "Peppermint? I want pumpkin spice." Okay, well, let me try the peppermint. So I got the peppermint frosty. Okay, hang on with me. I'm going somewhere. We're going. And so I started alternating peppermint chocolate, peppermint chocolate, peppermint chocolate. And I thought it was good. And it came to the point where now my body's literally craving a frosty. And I wouldn't get a frosty at the time I would normally go. I would get irritated. But that frosty has so much sugar in it. I was getting like headaches. I would get bloated. It was just bad. It was bad. But I thought it was a good idea. And so I give that silly little story to say, I thought it was a good idea to increase the frequency of which I went to Wendy's to get the Frosties. I thought it was a good idea to start going multiple times a day. Right? At least 2 times a day. And at least 5 times a week. Bruh. 2 times 5, 10. 10 times 4, 40. That's a lot of sugar in a month. I'm hurting myself. So I say this to say is sometimes we think something's good and it's actually not. So when it comes to decision making, we have to base it on what God says is good and what God says it's bad, because the original sin is Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, if God is so loving, why did he put that tree there? Because it's not love if you don't have an option. We choose to love God because there's other options. There's other gods out there. I used to be of the belief of, well, there's only one God. That's not true. Otherwise, the Bible wouldn't say in Exodus chapter 30, and Jesus himself would not say, have no other gods before me. There's other gods. So when we come to this mindset and we come to this conclusion that there are other things that I can do, well, it's more meaningful now that I choose this. It's more meaningful when I tell Shelby I love you because there's other people that I can love. It means something when a friend calls me knowing I'm busy, saying, "Hey Sage, I just want to link with you. Can we get some time?" Yeah, I'll clear out some time in my schedule and I'll set it aside just for us. That means something. So now that we talked about the basis of how decisions are made with the wisdom and understanding of I want to please God, well, how does this translate to our day-to-day life? That's a great question. The way that it translates, the way that we come to the conclusions that we come to, are simply, what am I wanting to get? Am I wanting more money? So I accept a job. Am I wanting a deeper connection? So I have a conversation. Am I wanting to close a relationship? Am I wanting to go somewhere? Am I wanting to look good? Am I wanting to get compliments? None of these things are inherently bad. None of these things are inherently good. But critical thinking is of the essence. So when we have chess, right, you can't just think, perhaps you're not privy to the world of chess. But when it comes to chess, there's multiple decisions and scenarios that we have to play out as we make a move. And it's even more of the essence if you're playing timed chess. Because now we're not just making decisions, but now we have to keep in mind, what is this other person potentially thinking? So growing up, my dad and I, we played a lot of chess. I'm very strategic in nature. I'm a very logical thinker. I'm an emotional person, and I'm very logical. So when it comes to these decision makings, I like to keep in mind, well, how is this going to impact my surroundings? So now, thank you, God, I'm not going to tell you what to think. That's not my responsibility. That's not my job. That's not my role. Instead, I'm going to present to you how to think. And you can receive and you can leave whatever you deem is appropriate for you. For me, first, I need to understand, and I want to communicate to you the importance of self-awareness and self-consciousness. Because if we're making decisions based out of self-consciousness, it's going to be very different of when we make decisions based out of self-awareness. And allow me to break down the two. Self-consciousness is simply saying, how do you perceive me? How does what you're doing affect me? When I walk into a room, am I thinking everybody's looking at me, everybody's talking about me? And let me share, I'm going to be open here, I'm going to be vulnerable. I was plagued for years and years and years that everybody was talking about me. It was, and I don't use this word lightly, it was crippling. When I heard people laugh, just like, in general, it's like two people I've never met before, but they're laughing. I was plagued with the thought of they're laughing at me. One, that's a little prideful and arrogant. People I don't know, they're taking the time to laugh at me. What? I would walk somewhere when I heard people whisper, they're whispering about me. Everything's about me. Me, me, me. It's almost like I'm singing and it's just a sad song. That's self-consciousness. Based on this decision, how is it going to make me look? How's it going to make me feel? But as we walk with God, we transition from self-consciousness to self-awareness. Self-awareness is similar to self-consciousness, but self-consciousness is just a knockoff. It's a wannabe. Self-awareness is actually the goal. Self-awareness is actually the prize. Self-awareness says, well, how do you impact me? And in essence, how does that affect the way that I impact you? Right? So when I walk into a room, self-consciousness says, well, what are you saying about me? Okay. Self-awareness says, what are you saying about me and how does that affect the way I interact with you? Right? Self-awareness puts it back on the other person. That's humility. Because it's not about me. It's about you. And for you, it's not about you. It's about me. Right? So when we get in a community that understands it's not about me, it's about you, then it's a beautiful cycle and a beautiful circle, a wonderful ecosystem of it's about all of us. And so now, there's no fighting, there's no arguing, there's no selfishness, there's no backbiting, there's no gossip. There's none of these things that we read about in James chapter 4. Because we understand it's not about me, it's about you. And now because you're thinking it's not about you, it's about me, well, now we can really get somewhere. So when it comes to decision making, operate out of that. It's not about me, it's about you. Right? It doesn't say disregard yourself. That's not what it's saying. And that's not what I'm saying. It's regard yourself in the sense of how is this affecting the other person? Okay? So I know sometimes this seems like a lot to chew on. So you can pause it, replay it back, listen to it again, and compare it to how you live your life, and again, receive what's for you and just leave what's not. We can sharpen these things as time goes on. Nobody's saying that once you adopt this philosophy, you have to stick with it for the rest of your life. That's not true. Self-actualized people change over time. They evolve over time. They leave what's no longer beneficial and they go and adopt into something else. Think of yourself as a hermit crab. As a hermit crab grows, it leaves the old shell and it goes finds a new one. And as it grows, it leaves that shell and it goes and finds a new one. And it leaves that one and it goes and finds a new one. To go find something means that you're looking. And if you're looking, it means you know what you're looking for. So first, remember decision making. You see how everything's kind of tying all back together? You got to know what you're looking for. This is where we talked about at the very beginning. Look to please God. So recently, I'll share this with you. I'm going through a transitional time of my life. I used to be a young adults pastor and worship leader, and God called me to step down. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't doing anything bad. There was no moral failure. He just said this season of your life is up. So step down and go somewhere else. And it was very difficult. It was very hard. I cried a lot. Cried a lot of tears. And God has been helping me. He's helping me start my business. I travel doing music. I speak. I do a lot of things. I help other people. I coach people. I create programs for people. I help people with time management. I create schedules for them. And I'm saying these things because perhaps you're wondering, well, why should I even listen to you? Well, I have receipts. I have things that you can look at and say, oh. Right? The same way I could coach because I've won championships. The same reason why people listen to me when I train them, because I've trained people to go to nationals and to win. So I have that. Now, I can always grow, right? I'm not perfect in the things that I did. There's a lot of room to grow, a lot of room to grow. But you got to start somewhere. Despise not the day of small beginnings. So I share that to say, because when I was making this transition, there were a lot of decisions that need to be made. How am I going to say goodbye? I also worked at a school, and there were a lot of little kids there. And I remember on my last day, it had a chapel. I worked at a Christian school. And I asked if I could say goodbye to the kids so I didn't just disappear. Because I would walk around the school the days it was open, and I would say hi to the kids. I would talk to the kids, and then all of a sudden I'd disappear. How painful is that? It's very painful. And I remember one time I did that. I said goodbye in a non-tactful way, and it really hurt people. And that is something that I say I don't have a lot of regrets, but that is something I wish I could do over. So anyway, excuse me. Thank you. Got to cough one more time. Sorry if that's loud in your ear. And so I remember I'm telling these kids goodbye and that I love them and that I'm so proud of them and I'm not leaving because I don't like them. I share with them that this is something that I believe God's asking me to do. And when I said that, all of a sudden the kids start cheering my name. And the teachers start cheering my name. I did not know what to do. And it was so difficult. Even when the kids would come up and be like, why are you leaving? Even when my friends would say, Sage, why are you leaving us? The people I discipled, why are you leaving? The people I worked with, why are you leaving? People looked and were acting as if I was betraying them. As if I was rejecting them, saying, I no longer love you. That's not the case. I love them deeply. I loved them so much I couldn't stay where God no longer gave me grace to be, because now my selfishness is going to hurt them. And so I had to make decisions on how am I going to operate, even now. And so I was praying this morning, and God stopped me and he says, I need you to go to Matthew chapter 6, verse 8. And this is what it said and says. It didn't stop saying that. But this is what it says. And do not be like them, for your Father knows what you're going to say before you even say it. It's talking about prayer. Verse 9 says, and so pray like this. And God says, I want you to pray like this from now on. Just the Lord's Prayer. Nothing fancy. If I want to pray, that's the prayer I pray. And so it's teaching me. All right, this is this morning, so I'm telling you, this is fresh. What I believe it's teaching me is that God already knows, because I'll repeat things a lot in my prayer because I don't believe them and I'm trying to convince myself. When you make a decision, commit to it. When you say something, follow up with it. If you're unable, that's why the Bible says don't promise anything. I make no promises to nobody. None. I just say, I'll do my best. Hey, Sage, can you do this? Instead of saying yes, I'll say, I'll do my best, see if I can. Because the Lord says he'll hold you accountable. And just imagine if you keep saying you're going to do something and you don't do it, people are going to stop believing you. You don't want that. You want your words to hold weight. You want, right? And you may be thinking, Sage, you don't know what I want. Trust me. When you get to the point where your words literally don't matter, you will want people to take you seriously. Right? I went from a person who joked all the time, who would make all these promises and never fulfill any of them. People just stopped listening to me. They literally ignored me. And so when I was saying something important, people wouldn't listen. They never counted on me. And that hurt. And so just like skateboarding, I had to learn to commit. I say learn because it is a skill. Committing to something is a skill. The same way that you commit to sit down. You can do a half sit, but at some point you have to let your weight fully sink into the chair. You have to be able, you can kind of see my legs. I'm not wearing socks or shoes right now, and I'm not trying to show off my dogs, but you should be able to swing your feet. That's full commitment. So whatever it is, I speak in principles. I don't really speak in specifics. So that's why you may be thinking like Sage, like get to the point. I already spoke the point. So now I'll reiterate it in a different way. When you fully commit to something, you are making up your mind to do it full send. Okay, perhaps you're thinking, well, I got plans for my plans. Wonderful. I do too. I have plan A. I have plan B and plan C. If plan A doesn't work out, plan B is to make plan A happen. If plan B doesn't work out, plan C is to make plan A happen. I'm fully committed. I'm charging headlong, headstrong, take you on. That's a song. But I am. Focus is what it takes. Determination is what it takes. So start off in the little things. Commit. I'll make my bed at least 3 times a week. Do that for a month. I commit I'll make my bed at least 4 times a week. Do that for about a month. I'll commit to myself I'll make my bed 5 times out of the week. 6 times out of the week. Don't do 7. Give yourself grace. Give yourself, okay, I didn't do it here, but I'm still within my bounds. Because it's the little things you don't do that add up. The reason why a lot of us feel bad about things is because instead of doing little wins throughout the day, right? Oh, well, I promised myself I'd go to the gym 7 times a week. Well, you miss one day, now it's a failure. Now you didn't do it. That weighs on you after time. Oh, well, I said I make my bed 7 days out of the week. I said I'd read my Bible every day. Give yourself grace. Grace is the understanding that you will mess up. Okay, whether you want to or not is actually irrelevant. It does not matter. You're going to mess up. Grace says that's accounted for. So learn from why you messed up. Okay, so what we talked about is decisions. We talked about that making the decision requires full commitment. And that's something that you have to prepare yourself for. The Bible says does a person start to build something without first counting the cost? So you have to understand what this decision, to the best of your ability at least, what this decision is going to impact. You have to separate yourself from self-consciousness and embrace self-awareness. How is what I'm doing going to affect you? That is a true godly decision. That's a wise decision. I like to say, don't ask if something is right or wrong, good or bad, but ask, is this wise? Because good or bad, we don't know. Just like I thought going to Wendy's multiple times every day was a good idea. I should have asked Sage, is this wise? Because the answer would have been no. Man, I love Frosties. I love ice cream. I love sweets. I love going to the gym. I love going to the gym so much. I was there every day for 4 hours. What do I need to do at the gym for 4 hours? So now it's an hour and a half. And right now, I'm not going at all. God said, pause it. There's other things that need to be tended to. So, ask yourself, is this wise? Y'all, I'm so proud of you. You are doing such a great job. You are accomplishing a lot of things. Look, you may not be where you want to be yet, but you're not where you were. You may not have your whole goal list. If you have a goal list, that may not be all filled out yet. I pray it never is, because that gives you something to strive for. Man, you are doing such a wonderful job. Maybe you just need to tell yourself, I'm doing a good job. Okay? You didn't say it. Tell yourself, I'm doing a good job. I didn't say you got to believe it. Okay? Tell yourself, I'm doing a good job. At the gym, and I'm closing on this, I have this thing I do. I dap myself up in the mirror like this. I do it so often, people ask me if I'm okay if they don't see me do it. I encourage myself so often, people ask me if I'm okay when they don't hear me encourage myself. I believe in me. Get to the point where you believe in you. I mess up. I mess up a lot. I mess up all the time. And I learn from my mistakes. So assess. You can make wise decisions. You make wise decisions. Here, we learn how to live. Okay, and learning requires commitment. Y'all, I love you. I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. Peace.